I remember when Jujutsu Kaisen was released and everyone just went completely insane. People spoke about the anime as if it was able to revive the dead. I specifically remember people describing it as shonen perfection. So after hearing all this, I was very excited to watch the anime. Unfortunately, it didn't click with me like everyone else. I'm not going to go into all the details as to why Jujutsu Kaisen didn't work for me, mainly as I have a video on my channel that details why, although I wouldn't watch it because it's quite old. To condense my thoughts into a nice neat package, animation is good, fight scenes are excellent, but the characters are what let the show down for me. None of them really received that much development, and the main trio spend such little time together that a convincing bond never really forms between all of them. Now this opinion of mine is based solely on the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen, and I guess the film too, as I watched that recently, and it didn't change my mind. What I'm saying is, I will watch the second season that releases later this year, and I hope it does change my mind. I know it's adapting the Shibuya arc that manga readers keep screaming from the rooftops, so hopefully it lives up to the hype. Plus, whilst the majority of the characters didn't work for me, or don't currently work for me, I did like Gojo, and especially Nanami. Nanami was just such an effortlessly cool character, and I love him. Anyway, point is, people liked Jujutsu Kaisen and said it was shonen perfection, and I disagreed. However, it did make me think, what anime is shonen perfection? Now, obviously, you could just say Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood or Hunter x Hunter, because both are excellent and both have amazing stories, but I don't think when people say shonen perfection, they mean a perfect story. I believe they mean the tropes and cliches of shonen are present in the anime or manga, but are presented and executed in the best way possible. Thinking about it in this way, one anime came to mind, and it was Black Clover for me. I was originally going to title this video as Black Clover is shonen perfection, but I decided not to for a few reasons. Firstly, Black Clover isn't finished. It is very possible that everything good about Black Clover completely vanishes and the story goes up its own arse and delivers a terrible ending which would make this video age really poorly. Secondly, the anime isn't perfect. Regardless of how it ends, we all know how Black Clover began, and to say it began perfectly would be completely untrue. I recently rewatched the entirety of the Black Clover anime, including any filler, to see if it still holds up for me, and I have to say that overall, it did. Certain things were even better on this rewatch, but other things were less so. Black Clover absolutely takes a while to find its footing. There are a lot of teething problems in the earlier episodes of Black Clover, and it's no surprise that a lot of people dropped Black Clover and dismissed it of being a rip-off of every shonen. Naruto, Bleach, Fairy Tail, all things that Black Clover was ripping off. I do know that the mangaka has said that Bleach was a big inspiration for the series, but the others, I have no idea. However, I actually enjoyed the start of Black Clover a lot more in this rewatch. Yes, objectively it still isn't great, but you can see the seeds being planted for later arcs, and watching it now made me realise how ahead the manga was planning his story. It's just that the execution isn't great. Knowing that the outcome of these plot threads is satisfying made the beginning a lot more palatable. I also feel that the start of Black Clover can be best compared to another shonen, Attack on Titan. This might seem like a weird comparison, but hopefully I'll explain it well. Aside from the characters not being Japanese except for one, there is very little in common between Attack on Titan and Black Clover. However, I do believe that both authors had the same strategy in place for how they were going to tell their story. It's just that Attack on Titan executed it better. Basically, both authors wanted to hook you in with bombastic action whilst laying down the tracks for future stories. I understand this desire, as I think we can all agree that we've watched a show or movie that has been really boring, but we've let it slide because we all knew we were watching the setup to a hopefully exciting payoff. Both Attack on Titan and Black Clover tried to reduce the tedium of watching setup by having lots of action. However, Attack on Titan got away with this because its action was much better and had more stakes as people were genuinely being killed off left, right and centre, which gave the show this feeling like you would get in a show like The Walking Dead, where it felt like anyone could die at any second. In fairness, the first season of Attack on Titan was being animated by Wit Studio, whilst Black Clover was animated by Studio Pierrot. The action in the first season of Attack on Titan was better animated than the first 24 episodes of Black Clover. If Black Clover had been animated by Wit and Pierrot had done Attack on Titan, then maybe the weak start of Black Clover wouldn't even be considered weak. I know that some people have said that the Entertainment District arc in Demon Slayer isn't really anything special in terms of story and or characters, but the animation is so fantastic and the action so brilliant that it ends up becoming a must-watch. Maybe if Wit Studio did Black Clover, then we'd be saying the same thing about Black Clover's start. The point is that Attack on Titan had a good start because it had a unique hook, high stakes, and great action, all while setting up and foreshadowing future events. Black Clover's beginning isn't held in the same regard because it felt like a rehash of a bunch of other shonen. Had quite low stakes, it never felt like anyone was in any danger. I certainly wasn't worried about Fugolian dying, and the action wasn't anything special. This is because Black Clover's animation is like Naruto's and Bleach's. Inconsistent. Sometimes Black Clover looks beautiful. Other times you may as well be watching a coloured-in version of the manga. Black Clover's beginning isn't just disliked because of its similarity to other stories or inconsistent animation. It's also because of the voice acting. I watched Black Clover with the Japanese audio, and I think this might be the second time I've seen people dislike an anime because of the Japanese voice acting, the other time being Japan Sinks 2020. This may come as a surprise to anyone who has not seen the anime, but knows the voice actors present. The Japanese cast is stacked. You look up the majority of the Black Clover cast, and you will find that they have voiced some major anime characters. I'm talking characters like Lelouch, Jotaro, Sukuna, Gintoki, Izuka, Tanjiro, etc. These are big-name voice actors, so why were people dissing the Japanese audio version of Black Clover? Well, it's because of Asta. Most of the characters in Black Clover were voiced by seasoned professionals, whereas Asta was voiced by Gakuto Kajiwara in what I believe was one of his first roles, certainly his first major role. I've never found Asta to be an annoying or grating character, but I do have to admit that he's a bit much in the first few episodes of Black Clover. Fortunately, either I just got used to it or Gakuto got better, but Asta is much more enjoyable as the anime progresses. I'm assuming it's the latter, as Gakuto has voiced other major anime characters in other major anime, and there's not been any complaints for those anime. Do any of you have any problems with Shinra from Fire Force, or Todano from Comic Can't Communicate? No, didn't think so. But this is all to say that Black Clover doesn't have the best start and therefore doesn't deserve to be called shonen perfection, even though I really want to give it that title. After the first two opening songs of Black Clover, I think the anime picks up in quality. Although this was definitely the least interesting part of the rewatch, if I'm being completely honest, Black Clover doesn't become magnificent until the Alpha arc, but it is able to maintain this quality even after that arc ends. The arcs before the Alpha arc are not bad, in fact they are pretty good, it's just that they don't live up to how I remember them on the rewatch. Although every anime that I've rewatched, including Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, have had moments like this, and this isn't something that should be viewed as a knock to Black Clover, but instead of certain things just being better the first time you experience them. Overall, Black Clover has a pretty good story. Again, who knows how it will end, but so far Black Clover has proven itself to be able to tell an engaging story with well thought out setup and great payoff. Hopefully Black Clover can do this with the conclusion to the Spade Kingdom arc and any arc that occurs after it. However, if it takes a while for the story to become truly excellent, then what I say to keep you sticking around up to that point. Firstly, the voice acting. It's good all around, including Asta once the voice actor gets comfortable in the role, which doesn't take too long. The animation, while inconsistent, can be truly excellent, especially for the fight scenes. Some of the fights in Black Clover rank among the best I've seen in anime. In fact, Asta and Yami vs Dante is one of, if not my favourite anime fight of all time. Although Yamamoto's fight against Yuwaka and Unohana's battle to the death with Kenpachi from Bleach Thousand Year Blood War may have dethroned it, the soundtrack for Black Clover is pretty good. It's not the best I've ever heard, and sometimes I think they can have a track playing at points where it shouldn't, or a track might be distracting me from what's on screen, but I do think some of the tracks are really good in Black Clover and are very memorable. The biggest thing that will keep you watching Black Clover is its characters. They are very likeable, and the very extended cast of characters are all interesting. Black Clover does a great job of introducing characters like Merio Leona, Lieb, Zora, Sekre Swallowtail later in the story, but is still able to make them feel like important and memorable characters, and takes the time to flesh them out. There are too many characters to talk about in detail here, but I'll talk about the ones that I really like. First of all is Asta. Asta is a character that will definitely grow on you the more time you spend with him. He has this infectious optimism and tons of morality. He is clearly deserving of being the Wizard King. He inspires all those around him. There are so many characters in Black Clover that initially look down on Asta for his poor upbringing and treat him like a laughingstock. However, through sheer will, determination and kindness, Asta perseveres and eventually brings his detractors around to his side. I also like how Asta isn't idyllic and unrealistic about things. He has complete belief that he can accomplish what he wants, but recognises that there are multiple extremely talented people who also desire the same thing as him. I like that Asta also doesn't put up with people acting weirdly towards him like other anime characters might. He calls Noelle and Yuna out when they do something he doesn't like. I love that he has this rivalry with pretty much everyone. Rivalry is a major theme of Black Clover, and I love how rivalries and competition can actually push people to try harder. Asta, despite how he may have initially seemed, is a fantastic main character. and I'm glad that it is his journey that we predominantly follow in Black Clover. Noelle is a character that also grows on you, but admittedly took a lot longer for me than Asta did. This is mainly because she's a tsundere. I don't have a problem with tsundere characters or characters who try and pretend they have no feelings for a character. What I don't like is when it's their entire character, and for a while, that's all there seems to be to Noelle. Fortunately, she, like so many others, is inspired by Asta and actively tries to better herself and received the recognition that both her mum and her siblings have received. She's a character that I ultimately ended up rooting for, and it was a joy watching her learn to control her powers. Yuno is a character that I like but don't really love. He's almost a little too one-note in the sense that his personality can almost be boiled down to handsome and gifted. Luckily, there's a bit more to Yuno than initially meets the eye. I love how him and Asta feel like brothers, and even when no one else believes in him, Yuno always knows that Asta can pull it off. When one of the best scenes in the anime is when Yuno and Asta are fighting a sleepy Lit, and Asta has been put out of commission, leaving Yuno to battle alone. Yet it's made clear that Yuno has so much faith that Asta will rejoin the battle, that he doesn't even hesitate to go over a strategy that hinges on Asta rejoining the fight. Their relationship is well done and effective, which is really surprising considering how often Yuno is absent from Black Clover. Yami is the leader of the Black Bulls, and he's a very unique anime character. He feels like a shonen protagonist that has already finished his journey and is now just chilling. I like how he's quite irresponsible and not the sort of person you would expect to be any good at leading, but it's Yami's honesty and brashness that ultimately makes him an inspiration to the other Black Bulls. Because he's not some high and mighty noble or a man who loves to sniff his own farts, it makes him a lot more relatable to the Black Bulls. They can identify with him because he's just as much of an outcast as they are, and if they see him push past his limits, then so will they. It also helps that he's just really cool. Finral is probably my favourite character in Black Clover. He's funny, and because of his power, he's one of the most important members of the Black Bulls, and usually plays a role in each arc, even if it's just to help a character get from point A to point B. However, like the rest of the Black Bulls, he has an actual story arc and is fleshed out as the anime progresses. This is another reason why Black Clover gets better as it goes on, as the characters at the start of the anime do feel like stereotypes and cliches, but as time goes on, they get their layers peeled back and are slowly fleshed out into three-dimensional characters. Finral is no different. He's shown throughout Black Clover to be a coward. He's a supporter, not a fighter, and therefore chooses to let the other Black Bulls pick up the slack in fights. However, he's eventually forced into joining the battles and starts to push himself so that he can be of better use to his allies. As for the Black Bulls, I feel like Finral got a lot of screen time and therefore got a lot more opportunity to have his character developed, and I think the writer does a great job of taking advantage of this. Last character I'm going to mention is Mimosa. I really like a character. Why do I really like a character? Well, I really like her character design, and she's really nice, and I like her. Fine, I think she's really pretty, and I want her and Asta to get together, even though Noelle will probably steal him away from her. Bitch. Sorry, I didn't mean that. Anyway, the characters in Black Clover are overall really excellent, but these are the ones that stood out to me the most. And that's not to say that the other characters are significantly weaker. Mario Leone is a blast. Leo and Vril are two characters that I love to see. I love watching Charlotte try and dodge her feelings with Yami. Nozel has always been an intriguing character, and Vanessa is just nice to look at. The point is, Black Clover has a large and likeable cast of characters, something that I can't say for most shonen. Most shonen will usually have a few characters that you like, but everyone else is in the background. But Black Clover actually tries to take the time and make sure that you're aware of every character's personality that the anime introduced to you. The Black Clover anime is still on hiatus, and the film just got postponed today. Not the day this video is released, or the day that I'm recording my audio or even editing, no, the day that I'm writing the script for the video. I'm really looking forward to the film. Studio Pro are a studio that get a lot of flack, mainly for their inconsistent animation, their adaptation of Tokyo Ghoul, and also the continued existence of Boruto. But Bleach 1000 Year Blood War restored a lot of goodwill in the studio, and I'm hoping that will carry over into the Black Clover film. As far as I'm aware, Studio Pro have always brought their A game when it comes to their films, and I'm hoping that Black Clover is no different. I'm so glad that it's coming to Netflix, it means I'll probably watch it day one, and I really hope that a lot of people do too, as I would really love for the main anime to continue too. I really don't want to have to wait 10 years for Studio Pro trying to make the next part of Black Clover, so please watch Black Clover the movie, or whatever it's actually called, because I really love this anime, and I'd be really sad the anime ends where it did. Black Clover might not be high art, it might not challenge your views on the world, or even stimulate your brain in any way, but it doesn't need to. Black Clover is a fun time, and in a world where it feels like everything is getting politicised and everyone is at each other's throats, it's nice to have something like Black Clover to escape to, where I can really just enjoy myself and not have to worry about life's problems. If you're someone who dropped Black Clover back when it released, then I would suggest giving it another chance, because I personally consider Black Clover to be peak entertainment.